Okay, so Mr. Philippe Quint, thank you very much for coming on Chaplin Talks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Yes, all good, all good. Just trying to stay busy.
Very important to stay active and to stay positive.
Yeah, what have you been doing? Keeping busy, or like in these times?
I mean, each week is different, I guess. Going through different stages. Some days are very busy and very active, and of course, mostly that means being on Zoom, doing all sorts of weird projects. And I think probably the weirdest of all is performing for my iPhone.
And especially you've performed around the world. Do you have any memorable experiences from any of your performances? Any favorite memories?
I guess just too many. Honestly, too many. Like a lot of special performances last year. I would have to say 2019 was such a great year. My debut in Moscow, which is my homeland. Essentially, I left when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So coming back to Moscow, performing with the best orchestra, with one of the great legendary musicians, Vladimir Spivakov, who conducted my concert. I played Brahms concerto.
Yeah,
that was incredibly special. And then, of course, our concert with you was also unbelievably special. This was a debut of the Charlie Chaplin Smile.
Oh, yes, exactly.
With you narrating, so that was unbelievably special.
I can tell you, for me, that was probably my highlight of the year. Was getting in front and speaking in front of all those people was for the first time.
Please welcome back to the stage Philippe Quint to perform Tango Bitterness from 1947's Monsieur Verdoux.
Hopefully we get to do it again. Oh my God.
I know there's a lot of catching up to do.
I don't want to do this show on Zoom. I was actually asked if I could do the entire Charlie Chaplin Smile show.
Really?
And I'm contemplating. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way.
So, okay, let's do this. So obviously, as you mentioned, you come from Moscow.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you left? So what's your story?
What's my story? I left the Soviet Union in 91. So this is right before the collapse of what's called Iron Curtain. Literally a few months before that, I was able to leave. And I guess the main reason to leave was to study at the Juilliard School in New York. That was my dream, childhood dream even. And I literally went to audition for my future teacher 3 days after I arrived to New York. And I immediately was accepted. And basically, that's how my life in America began.
And why classical music?
I don't know.
No, it's an interesting one.
It's almost an honest answer, almost. The reason being is, I didn't really have a choice. When I grew up, my mother played the piano, but she was a popular music composer, and my uncle played the cello. And I sort of grew up with my grandparents, and they had this idea that they wanted to put together a family trio. So naturally, I had to become a violinist. And I think, in a Soviet society or Russian society, classical music is an integral part of a lot of people's education. So you grew up in that environment, you know. So, you know, it was a sort of, I guess, pretty natural for me to become a classical violinist, except that I didn't know that. I wanted to become anything but a violinist. I'll be honest with you. My grandparents, I mean, Spencer, my grandparents gave me a violin at the age of 4, and I was convinced it was a new toy that I was going to play with, break it, and move on to the next one.
Oh, I see.
They didn't let me do that.
That's so funny. Yeah, well, thank God, because I mean, obviously, I've seen you play, and I've been a part of the shows. I don't think I've seen someone with as much emotion when you play. You know, like you feel it when you play.
Oh, I appreciate it, Spencer, very much. You know, but it took time. It took time to fall in love with the craft. You know, I didn't feel that I had such a natural progression. You know, like I feel that I was a child of a pressure. You know, I believe I had a break point when I was 13. You know, at 13, I remember that moment when I had some really good performance and I felt I should keep going.
It's 10,000 hours of practice, right? Before you master any.
Yeah, probably more.
That's what they say, I guess. If you put in your 10,000 hours, then you're good at what you do. So so this brings us on to so we were talking about your album Charlie Chaplin's Smile, which is out. Mm-hmm. I mean, how did you come across his music?
Well, as you know, I have a very long answer, and I should probably save the long answer for the 4-hour broadcast, the next one. Yeah, the short version is that I was looking for a project about four years ago now. I mean, 2016, I remember, is when it started. I was putting together just a new concept. I was trying to figure out where I want to go with the recording career, because at that point I already had maybe 16 commercial albums, and this was mostly standard classical repertoire, and I wanted to do something original. Mm-hmm. So in any case, I was on YouTube just surfing, looking for new music, new ideas.
Yeah.
And I stumbled across Smile. And I listened to the song and I thought to myself, well, that would be great. Let's see who wrote it. And I see Charlie Chaplin. And I was like, well, surely it's a mistake. He's probably credited as a director of the film where this music was. And I knew the song for ages, like everyone else. Yeah. I've heard versions of Michael Jackson. I think Tony Bennett, Nat King Cole.
Exactly.
Placido Domingo has a version, I think, as well. So, it's probably one of the most famous, iconic songs we have. And when I saw Charlie Chaplin, I started to do some digging. And sure enough, I don't see anyone else credited for the music except for Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
So at that point, the light bulb still didn't go off. I just thought to myself, why don't I just sort of, I started fiddling around with the song. I was like, I should do this, And then a few days later, while YouTube has this crazy function that you look at one thing then it throws you, the algorithms bring you to everything else by this person or anything that's related to that person. So I was thrown into the soundtrack of Limelight.
Wow, yeah, okay.
And that was just the original soundtrack. And I heard this glorious Terry theme, Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, what a glorious melody. It would sound fantastic on violin.
Hmm.
And I can attest that any violinist in the world will say that everything sounds better on violin. So I'm of the same mind, and I thought, well, I need to do an arrangement of this. Let's see who wrote it. And I see Charlie Chaplin. That's when that was an aha moment.
Okay.
You know, when I thought to myself, oh, did he write anything else? And that's when, you know, I started doing a much more extensive research on the web.
Yeah.
And I came across hundreds of songs from his films.
So many, right?
Like, oh my God. You know, it was like opening a treasure chest. It's like, oh, you know, like, this is unbelievable, you know, and like so many beautiful tunes, so many beautiful melodies. And this is how I started to discover Chaplin, basically. You know, I grew up on his films in Soviet Union. I had no idea about the man behind. I knew nothing, honestly. I knew absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So the journey began, and this is where I'm going to, you know, cut it short. Yeah. Otherwise, you know, we're going to spend so much time on this. Basically, 2 years later, we had 13 original arrangements of 13 songs that I loved the most. Then when I had to do a promotional tour for Warner label, I thought to myself, let's make it interesting. How did he get inspired? Like, how did he start writing music? And of course, everything was in his my autobiography.
Yeah.
All the incredible stories of his collaborations and encounters with Rachmaninoff.
And then not only that, but considering he didn't know how to read or write music, really.
It's really a fascinating process, you know, because that, you know, me being classically trained, I was always under the assumption that you can only call yourself a composer if you've studied it. If, you know, I mean, you know, I thought to myself, if I can make a rhyme, does this make me a poet? If I can draw something on a piece of paper, does this make me a painter? You know? Yeah. But, you know, when it comes to composing, it's not all, you know, it's not all the same.
Exactly.
And the one thing about your grandfather is his instincts were second to none. I mean, that was his biggest strength and asset when it came to films, to producing them, to writing them. He had, you know, aside from the fact, of course, that he was a brilliant man, but also it was his instinct that enabled him to produce this incredible amount of great films, but also with the music. He had that great instinct. And I mean, imagine somebody that has no training in music comes up to a professional arranger and composer and says, I don't like what you did here. Look, there are too many notes. It's this place looks too dark. You have to reduce the amount of instruments.
Yeah.
These were his comments. You know,
he was obviously known to be. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he wasn't afraid to let anyone know. I guess, you know.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's really great.
Amazing story. And so another thing with the live show, the one thing that really sticks out in my mind more when we did the thing in Germany, the concert in Germany, was when. So when you played to the Jewish barber scene in The Great Dictator, so you're playing it live with the orchestra, and there's a scene in the background, and obviously it's a very complicated scene.
This is, I would say, the funnest part of the show, but also the most challenging, because I would have to say that it was probably easier for Charlie to choreograph to music of Johannes Brahms, Hungarian, than for me to take out the original soundtrack and to try to match the choreography that he created to the music. Yeah. This is a third generation, you know?
Yeah.
So basically what I had to do is, I mean, talk about 10,000 hours of practice. They probably all went into this 5-minute piece. You know? I must have played with this clip hundreds and hundreds of times, you know, just to try to match, because what I love about the clip is that he really micromanages the entire scene, note by note, second by second.
You could have just done a much easier scene, but trust you to choose the hardest scene out there.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Yeah, because I found the scene to be hilarious.
Yeah,
and
it's a great scene
to be absolutely fascinating because of such a well thought out choreography, which is what he had everywhere.
For one night only, ladies and gentlemen, do not try this at home.
I mean, it's no surprise that when he met Claude Debussy, one of the first things that Debussy said, "You're not only a great actor, but you're also a great dancer."
And not only is it obviously my grandfather's music, you also stick a little bit of Gershwin or Stravinsky. So it's a little bit of a mixture, and I really like that. And I love the fact that it sticks to his music.
Well, it's important to indicate how someone who, as you said, no musical training, was able to create so much incredible music.
Yeah.
So, for me, this is the whole show is about his influences, and of course, I also touch up on his personal life because if I was to talk about Beethoven and Brahms and Bach or Mozart, I would always dig into their personal life because what was happening in their life was always on a page in their music. And for Chaplin, this was no different.
So, okay, how would you, if you had to describe Charlie Chaplin to a younger audience that hasn't maybe never seen him before, how would you describe him to someone?
I think, it's not really difficult. I mean, yes, it is, and it's not.
Okay.
Probably the simplest way of saying is that it's one of the world's greatest miracles.
I think you're being very kind there.
But it really is, because he was revolutionary. He was in the beginning of filmmaking. Think about it. I mean,
filmmaking wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for what he did back then as well.
Absolutely. This was, so I'm not really exaggerating when I'm saying that this is probably one of the world's greatest miracles, because here's somebody that transformed a certain part of the world. In his case, it was the world of cinema. And, to this day, there are some people that really feel that his films and the films of the silent era are still the best.
Check out Charlie Chaplin's Smile as well. What is it? It's on Spotify and iTunes, all that kind of stuff?
No, all the platforms. Yeah, it's called Chaplin's Smile on Warner label. Yeah.
No, so thank you so much for coming on, though.
Thank you, Spencer. Great to see you.
It's really nice to see you. I hope we get to catch up very soon at some point, when this is all over.
I hope so too. I'm sure it's going to happen.
Have a good day, yeah?
Take care. Bye. You too.
Bye. Cheers.